Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we'll take a look at some part of that report in this segment and hopefully the other part in the next, but we'll see how we go. Today, we've got two gentlemen here with us, Mr. Gbenga Ojo, a legal practitioner on my extreme right, and Mr. Monday Ubani, also a legal practitioner, former second vice president of the NBA. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, from the perspective of, as this scenario is unfolding now, the NBA, let's start with that. They just ended the 2-day boycott directive, or as it were, after their NEC meeting. But it turns out that it played out in different ways in different states, perhaps maybe not what the NBA expected. Mr. Bani, the NBA in question here, is it that they didn't achieve what they wanted with this?
Well, there are some states that we learned that the boycott was total and they recorded 100% success rate. But some states, and especially the Federal Capital Territory, there was no complete obedience to that directive of NBA. It may be that is issue of communication gap. I had thought that when NBA reached that decision, that it later should have been written to the 36 chief judges of those states, and maybe to the head of the judiciary too. I mean, Supreme Court and Court of Appeal, that this is the decision of NBA concerning what is playing out in the country and in judiciary. But that letter was not written. Some of the judges may not have been aware, and so they ordinarily will want to sit. And some lawyers too. You know, that decision was taken impromptu, and so there was no time to really disseminate information to the entire constituency. So I think there is a communication gap, and that may have accounted for the partial obedience. But there are some states that recorded 100%, like Benin, Edo State, some of the southeastern states like Cross River, and some other states. You know, even Lagos here, there was almost, it was 80% compliance. So maybe next time we do it better.
Did you see this coming, this level of compliance?
Yeah, I think there are a number of issues involved here. One, the decision to boycott the course for 2 days was reached on Monday, and the boycott was meant to commence on Tuesday. There was no notice, no mobilization, no sensitization. That is an aspect of it. Secondly, you have the issue of people who believe that boycott is actually not the best approach to the issue at hand.
That's members of the NBA.
Members of the NBA, and there are quite a number of them. They believe that the NBA should have probably adopted a different approach. For instance, at the meeting on Monday, it was resolved that there will be a kind of interface between the NBA and the government, lawyers in the executive. Some people believe that the NBA should have allowed that to play out first before deciding on embarking on this boycott issue.
Are you one of those who believe that?
I do. I do too. But most importantly is the issue of, my ex-chairman and second vice president has stated, is the issue of client-lawyer relationship. A lot of people believe that they have a duty to their client, and if the NBA has not ensured that the courts will not sit, it will be dangerous for them not to appear in court because the interest of their clients might be jeopardized.
Yeah, but didn't the NBA know that before they come up with that directive?
I suppose because in the heat of the moment, some decisions are taken, without...
Because it seems to suggest that the NBA acted too quickly with inadequate information of how to go about this in order to ensure that there's full compliance.
I agree with you absolutely.
The implication by some is that because there were partial compliance in some places, and in some states totally they did not even comply at all, like some states in the north. Does this in any way put the NBA in a fragile position such that it just might be divided?
My view is that this issue of improper communication, mobilization is very key. Maybe remember that the people that took that decision comprise chairmen and secretaries of the branches, past presidents and secretaries of the NBA. I mean, these are, the best in terms of leadership you can talk about in NBA that came and took that decision. For me as a lawyer, anytime NBA comes up with any directive, whether I believe in it personally or I don't believe in it, I mean, it is an association and we have elected leadership that's supposed to take decisions. And when they have communicated their decision, I am bound by it as a lawyer to obey it. Whether I disagree with them, it's my own personal individual difference. It does not in any way account to NBA as a body that I belong to taking a decision that binds me. And so I am not totally happy with some people now coming up with their own different ideas, because you are represented by your leadership. The branches were adequately represented.
But even before now, yes.
The
NBA, members of the NBA always ask the question that what's the NBA doing for me? I mean, I cannot stand for the NBA because there are some kind of crisis that is happening within
the come back and talk about the
ranks of the NBA.
And then how leadership, has actually, dealt with membership in another day. But now that you have a leadership in place and they have taken a decision, my own personal view is that whether you disagree with it or not, you abide with it.
One of the issues that lawyers also have taken on with the NBA about this is some are even accusing NBA of bias, of taking a position, taking a side with Justice Onnoghen as opposed to the federal government in this matter. That's why that...
I hope people will come up with any amount of accusation. It's a question that people have already taken their own personal view and decision of this issue. Are you following me? So you can afford to also accuse the leadership of being biased. But my own view is that if I've elected a leadership that is always biased in taking decision, then I blame you for electing that leadership that is always biased. But if I've elected leadership and they're in place and they have taken a decision and this is a decision that should bind you as a member, it will be wrong for you now individually to say, oh, I disagree, oh, they're biased and all that. That is how it works. Everywhere in the world, the lawyers' body must always speak on behalf of the people. The day we lose our voice as a body, then NBA does not have any reason to exist, because you must always articulate issues and look at it from national interest. The NBA must really be unbiased, as rightly pointed out, and look at it from national interest. What is at stake? The NBA is saying we are not shielding Justice Onnoghen. We are not going to shield any judge whatsoever. But in a country where there is constitution, you must follow due process in doing things. That is what I understand NBA to be saying. And every lawyer of conscience must... We said it when President Jonathan was here. He did it with Justice Salami. He did it with Sanusi when he also, suspended him. And some of us also, without any issue of political affiliation, we came here on channels 2 and said, no, this is wrong. And eventually the court validated what we were saying. So what we're saying is that lawyers' body must always be above board. Not, being biased or being partisan at any point in time, so that people will believe you. What we're saying is that we're not shielding any corrupt judges and all that, but follow due process, follow law. And if you follow law, the country will be better for it.
Perhaps maybe I should ask you, perhaps another issue that's put some people on edge, so to speak, on this issue, is that the very top man at the leadership of the NBA is said to have a case, somewhere, and consequently he's taking a side and asking...
That's actually true, and quite a number of lawyers are talking about that. The fact that in respect of this matter, because of the position in which Mr. Osoro himself, the president of the NBA, is, he should have probably taken a backseat at this. And people are attributing the rush with which NBA took a decision on this matter to Mr. Osoro's own personal issues with the EFCC and with the federal government. Now, because Mr. Ubani mentioned the case of Justice Ayo Salami, the NBA...
Yeah, but that attribution, what do you think of that attribution? Is it appropriate or what?
People are entitled to attribute. And personally, too, to a very large extent, I agree with them. I agree with them. Now, in the case of Justice Salami, the NBA took a position that because the matter was sub judice, the NBA would not interfere. The Justice Salami matter in 2012. Very similar to this. Mr. J.B. Daudu then made that comment that the matter was sub judice, it was in court, the NBA wasn't going to interfere. And when Mr. Okewale too, Learned Senior Advocate of Nigeria, came in as president, he took the same position. We are here now. There are 3 cases already in court, rightly or wrongly.
No, but was it sub judice before the NBA met? This particular case?
It was. We are aware that 3 orders were obtained from court before the NBA met on Monday. 3 NGOs went to court, obtained orders from court in favor of the Honorable Justice Onnoghen.
Before the NBA met.
Before the NBA met. So the matter was sub judice 3 times.
So they shouldn't have gone. Okay, yeah. But on that sub judice matter, is that your view?
The point is that NBA, even at that time, Justice Salami's matter, some lawyers in Ikeji, I remember vividly, I remember Ikeji led a protest even to the High Court in Lagos, protesting what happened to Justice Salami. If a matter is sub judice, and NBA met and said, look, the process leading to the matter now that have even made it now a matter of for judicial intervention is wrong. There is nothing wrong for NBA to meet and review a situation that involves a judicial arm of government, a judiciary, a arm of government, and say, look, the process even leading to this matter now coming to court, was it a proper procedure? Was it a proper process? There is nothing wrong in that. And that is what they did. And I want to correct this impression. Mr. Soro is only a president. Mr. Soro cannot in any way erode any of his personal decision, on what NBA as a body should do. It was, as I said earlier, the entire collective leadership of the NBA was summoned to Abuja. It was an emergency meeting, and they all sat down and reviewed the entire scenario and reviewed the entire case and came up with a resolution that they read. It wasn't to Soro's personal decision. It was the leadership. So if there is any person to accuse, it's the leadership that took that decision and not Soro. Let's separate Soro from what took place in Abuja, because all the leadership was adequately represented. All the branches were there. And I didn't hear of any single branch that came there and raised an objection. Even if he did, they